On today's episode of Newsflash, we have James Stanley with us as we watch live election night coverage. Also, the big news of the day, we have our Democratic presidential ticket. Joe Biden selects Kamala Harris. Is it the right choice? Will it help Biden win or hurt him in November? And what about the others? Could they end up in the cabinet somewhere? We will discuss many questions on a night like tonight. Of course, we're grateful to have back with us for the second straight week James Stanley with us, and would love to try to get Chase Henges to come as well, but it didn't work out, unfortunately. But first, I do want to start by talking about, of course, the biggest news of the day, which, of course, is the Kamala Harris selection. I've pretty much been saying it. I talked a little bit about this on YouTube, and people are also speculating that she had plastic surgery.
Who?
Kamala Harris. I don't know. It's a speculation. I shouldn't say it, but I shouldn't say it until at least I know for sure. But it is. She is now taking her step, probably in what is, I would say, the most consequential VP pick that we have seen, because she's probably the 2024 Democratic primary frontrunner, especially if Joe Biden does not make it to a second term. I would also say that, especially if you're looking at it from a left wing perspective on criminal justice, big tech, she has kind of a grievance list that is a mile long, and it does kind of show you that the left here, at least by Joe Biden, just continues to, in all substantive ways, be ignored. And of course, I know, James, you were looking preferably at Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I think she's definitely better than Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris is just is proven time and time again, she is the biggest reason. Normally when you pick a VP, you got some kind of strategic reason. For example, the reason why Donald Trump picked Mike Pence.
The Episcopalians,
Indiana, a very conservative state, but the evangelicals, that was really what that shored him up in such a big way with the evangelicals. A part, you wouldn't expect them to support a guy like him, a 3-time divorced guy, and Republicans can't win without evangelical Christians, and so that was a hugely strategic step. But really, from all accounts and purposes, the only thing that Kamala Harris has as a real strong suit as a politician, she's not entirely popular within the Democratic constituency. She has a small group of very loyal followers, mostly on Twitter. It's really only the fact that she is cozy with the elite and knows how to raise money.
Yeah, I agree, because the reason why I supported Warren was mainly because I felt as if she would be a good vice president pick. She advocated a lot of things that would have been very helpful to have right now in this country. And even looking at Kamala Harris nowadays Kamala Harris definitely does have a pretty, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a left record. I still don't like her, even with it or not. But Kamala Harris back then is really the problem I have, because when you look at how she was as Attorney General, she did an awful job. She was the reason why they have private prisons all across California. She was an adamantly supporter of over-jailing. Actually, when she was the district attorney for San Francisco, the incarceration rate went from 53% to 76% over 3 years, even though she came in and said that she's going to drop it by half, which is obviously a lie. And the other thing that I also really liked about Warren over Kamala is the fact that she has a record of positivity and a track record that is honestly good. I understand maybe, you didn't agree, Spencer, with what she did in the primary, but Trump's not going to really be attacking her for that. Whereas for Kamala, Trump could be attacking her on what, her track record as Attorney General, because Trump did sign in the First Step Act. I'm not saying that he was the reason why.
To be fair, it would be a very sensible attack line. But to be fair, he has been very pro-police for the past 2 months. You can't turn around and be all criminal justice. You can't be sounding like Sean King after you've just spent the last 2 months calling Black Lives Matter protesters thugs and looters and criminals, and sending just sticking people seeking like police, like your own special police on protesters. Like I don't know. It'll be a pretty hard leap to make, I think, even for Trump. Maybe I'm underestimating it, but
No, he already started doing it though. That's the thing. He already started using it as an example.
He can try.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to work or anything, but my point is if you had Warren up, what he's going to attack her? Oh, she's Native American. All that shows is that
Far
his
left
character.
as well.
Yeah, but like this is just like low character attack lines that don't really do anything. I think honestly, what they do.
But I mean,
they just
honestly,
throw fire.
I think you can. I think that's it. I think that's a really it's a line the media I think has jumped onto in a big way, which is I think makes it more effective. But
yeah, maybe Fox News, but
yeah, I mean,
like.
But also, there's been some other kind of media coverage. I think when people look like that, it's like that they'll look like that as someone who games the system, like who's willing to like manipulate and lie and use kind of like identity politics, like for her own personal ends. And I don't even think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people on the right will say, "Oh, she's far left," and the people on the far left will be like me, would be like very, very skeptical of her. Like if she's willing to capitulate to power and capitulate for her own political purposes, like that badly, like in the primaries, just abandoning literally every single one of her principles, one after another. Like, I mean, I don't know what do you expect to do when she gets in office? I don't know how when like really things come up in a high pressure situation. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think in a high pressure situation, I think Warren would be a lot better. I mean, look, the thing is, with her primary, I could really care less about what she said. I look more about actions because Kamala Harris in the primary acted as if she was a progressive. She was saying about Medicare fraud and also the garbage that she kept on spewing out of her mouth that was BS. Warren has a track record of fighting. I mean, she was one of the lead legislators for Medicare for All, which is something that I support.
But
she was one of the
lead.
With it.
Look what she did within the primary, though. Like I just
no,
think
I
that
know.
stuff
Well, but in the
cannot
primary,
be
she
ignored.
didn't abandon Medicare for all in the primary. She said that she would be open to a public option. She didn't abandon the idea of not doing it, though. I mean, I will agree that she
really stepped back on it. She pretty much said,
"Well,
we'll do Pete's plan first, then wait for the midterms to do Medicare for all." And I think that capitulation was really what cost her a lot in the polls back then.
Oh, I mean, I would agree there, but I mean, I'm more looking at the record of the person as to why I support Warren over Harris. I mean, like looking at the primary is not something that Trump is going to be looking at to attack Warren, because first off, even though she walked away from it,
I'm talking about from the left perspective more.
Oh, you're talking about the left perspective.
Yeah.
Then yes, I could probably see what you're saying here. But as a perspective of the majority of Americans who aren't left, or at least the farther left than Warren in that per se, Warren really would have been a better choice than Harris, because when you look at her track record, for example, right now we're in a pandemic. Right now people are going through a financial crisis never seen before, maybe even worse than the Great Depression, as many people say. I mean, we have a 10.3% unemployment rate, and finances are very tight in many people's households right now. Warren has taken on big banks for her entire career, and she's gotten more things done. And the reason why I like her over Bernie is because she's advocated and gotten a lot more things done. Bernie didn't create the Consumer Personal Finance Bureau, which, by the way, saved a lot of people a lot of money from the big banks, which were really being quite assaulting them. And the guy who ran it, Richard Corday, he was a pretty good guy to actually have running it the first year. I know Obama.
And she wouldn't, like, the fact that Elizabeth Warren wasn't even allowed to run her own bureau shows, like, how I think that's a big mark. I mean, not really on Warren, but more on Obama. But
no, she didn't want to leave Obama asked her, but Warren said she wanted to stay in the Senate to get more bills done. Because at the time the Senate. Well, no, at the time the Senate was 50. No, but at the time the Senate was 51-49.
But they did have some pretty deep animosity.
No, but Richard Corday was pretty like Warren, though. I mean, when he ran for governor in Ohio last year, so it wasn't like Corday was like an Obama, like a Republican Democrat.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I did see that he ran for governor.
Yeah,
did he win the primary or?
Yeah, he won the primary against a congressman from Ohio. He did pretty well actually in that primary.
But he lost to
2018. No, this is 2018. Yeah, he lost to DeWine. But yeah, I mean, the main reason why I support Warren over Harris and why I was advocating for Warren is because, first off, he said he's not going to choose a man. If he was going to choose a man, I would say Bernie all the way, because, first off, not only will that secure a base that Biden doesn't have, but Bernie wouldn't be necessarily a bad one to have as his vice president, because I understand, they don't agree on everything.
Two old guys, though, like, that's a big turnoff.
Yeah, it's a turnoff, but like let's look at the Republicans for a second. I mean, how old is Pence? I'm not gonna. I know
But
that
I mean,
Trump.
like you can't play with the same rules. Like the Republican base and the Democratic base, like I don't think they think the same
Well,
way.
then who do you think then? But then what? Like if Biden said,
There's a
I'm going
big
to do some,
portion of
yeah,
like the more kind
who do
of
you think?
like
Who do
identity
you think he should
politics
choose?
base. If it was open to men as well.
Yeah,
And
who
personally,
would you
like
choose?
I think a good pick would probably be like I would like to see like a Pramila Jayapal person, maybe like a Midwest or maybe a Sherrod Brown. I mean,
Sherrod Brown. Oh yeah, Sherrod Brown. Yeah, I don't think he would
he's
be that.
not. He's not. I mean, he's not super. He's kind of like
No,
like a kind of maybe Midwest progressive.
or even Duckworth isn't bad.
Yeah, Duckworth was definitely not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the really main reason why I really wanted Warren over Harris is because she had a better track record, and I think right now during this time that would have been something good to have behind Biden. Because look, I'm gonna be honest with you, Biden's track record isn't the brightest and isn't the best. Nearly not. I mean, I would argue that out of all the people who ran for the presidency, Bernie definitely did not have a dark record. I mean, besides some of his votes with the Brady bill and then voting for the crime bill. Warren, however, did have a pretty, I would say she had the best record, not only because she got a lot of her things enacted, the Bankruptcy Act,
And
the
you have
consumer.
to look at what, especially like just just if you just look at the time where his campaign ended, when Bernie Sanders' campaign ended in 2016 to when he like to current time, like he forced two major companies, Disney and Amazon, to raise their minimum wages to $15 an hour. Like just that alone, I think is very very substantive, and has such a big impact on people's lives. I mean, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Yeah,
Like,
Warren is part of
it's
that
I'm sorry,
pact
it's
as well, though. You know
it's
that, right?
not what
Warren was a part of that pact as well. You know that, right?
the one that forced him.
Yeah, it
The
was the fight
forced
for
Disney.
15.
Yeah, but I think like when Bernie was, I think definitely leading. I'm sure like Elizabeth Warren led her support to that. I'm sure, but
Well, Elizabeth Warren had a rally with him down in Orlando with the Disney employees.
yeah, but I would definitely say it would be fair that Bernie would be leading it.
Yeah, but that's one thing, Spencer. I'm talking about like I wasn't even done with the list of what Warren got done. I mean, she got the
Yeah,
Bankruptcy Act.
I'm saying
She also advocated for a lot of did the Telecommunications Act, which is the act that well at the time was supposed to certify like net neutrality, so it wasn't repealable. That was obviously rejected by the Republican House at the time in 2014. But I mean, like her record of fighting for the people really isn't a bad one. I mean, I know that that's kind of like an oxymoron because Kamala Harris's slogan was for the people, which is completely wrong on that part. But I think really the main reason why Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris is he looks at her as someone who's just an establishment person. She's black, and he basically thinks that because it worked for Obama, basically, he's crossing his fingers and trying to throw a Hail Mary and see if Kamala Harris can do the same that happened with Obama with the black support. Because with his comments that he's making lately, I mean, I'd argue that he is really rumbling and like he's going downhill. This guy, I mean, I don't understand like what he's saying half the time, and I think many Americans can agree with that sentiment.
Oh, are you referring to Biden?
Yeah, like what he said not yesterday, last week, I think about what
Yeah.
about the how the African American community isn't as diverse in
Yeah,
ideas
some of those clips
as
are just
the
like
Hispanic community.
they're really like taken aback.
Oh, yeah.
I would say for sure. Yeah, I do want to take a look at the New York Times analysis. A headline that kind of caught my eye, and very much interesting point here.
Ilhan Omar won her primary, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Just in there, 59.4 to 39.3. Yeah, so nothing really. I do regret. I honestly regret donating to her a little bit because like she. I tried to donate to like people who actually need it. And she clearly didn't need it, but yeah, this is interesting. So in Kamala Harris, a choice at once safe and energizing, which is kind of a weird thing because how could be two like opposite things at once, but. Do you think this is a safe choice? Like, do you think there's a lot of vulnerabilities that would really hurt Joe Biden?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of vulnerabilities that.
But
will
really,
hurt
with the
this
Republicans and independent voters, though, like, would they really be like pissed off about that stuff?
I think that Warren would have been able to bring over a lot more independents than Harris. I mean, many political scientists agree with that sentiment that Warren would have been a lot more of a help than Kamala Harris. They looked at polling data that they had conducted with the vice presidential pick, and Warren would help Biden in 37 states. Kamala Harris would only help him in 11. And by the way, only two of those were the battleground states. One of them was Pennsylvania, and the other one was Michigan. She would have actually hurt Biden in Wisconsin because she has a very bad disapproval rating in that state. However, when you look at Warren, out of the 38 states that she would have held Biden in, many of which